Before we start, subscribe my channel, press the bell icon and hit like button so you never miss any video from my channel.
10 movie scenes that were difficult for the actors to film. Everything in the abyss. This might come as a shock, but trying to shoot almost an entire film underwater is actually pretty hard and pretty risky. The Abyss is most memorable for its extensive and beautiful underwater sequences, but it's probably best known in the film world for its insanely difficult shoot. The entire cast had to become certified divers before filming began, but in one particularly memorable incident, lead actor Ed Harris felt things got out of control and dangerous, and was so upset by the incident that he confronted director James Cameron afterwards. Nearly everyone who worked on the film agreed that it was the most difficult film they'd ever shot. The water scenes in Titanic. Shooting a film on the scale of Titanic is a massive headache for everyone involved, but the actors in the epic James Cameron film had a special kind of difficulty that they had to deal with throughout almost the entire production that seems simple, but must really wear down on a person. Simply put, the water in their tank sets was really cold. Most people have a difficult time in cold water even for short periods, but these actors had to spend days on end in the extra chilly temperatures, and they still had to, act while freezing. The malfunctioning jaws. The choice to have the shark in Jaws be an unseen and terrifying force throughout most of the movie only to be physically revealed in the final act is widely regarded as one of the best suspense-building choices in the annals of film history, but keeping the great white out of sight for that long wasn't actually a choice. The mechanical shark that was built for the production unfortunately had constant problems, and the crew had a hard time even getting it to work in most cases, so director Steven Spielberg simply figured out a way around the problem as much as he could. Fast 5's commitment to realistic action scenes. The Fast and the Furious series has definitely had a nearly never-ending list of amazing stunts, but one of the more memorable entries onto that list came in Fast 5, where the movie features an enormous bank safe being stolen and dragged away by two Dodge Chargers. But what makes the scene exceptionally surprising is that it was a practical effect. The production crew actually dragged an enormous prop vault. Or rather, they dragged one of 7 prop vaults, each of which had to be specifically designed for different purposes and different shots throughout the scene. Iron Man 3's skydiving extravaganza. Seeing a massive amount of CGI and special effects in a Marvel film is pretty much what the audience expects at this point, but one of the most memorable scenes of Iron Man 3 was surprisingly a real performed stunt. At one point in the film, a group of free-falling civilians are rescued by Iron Man and link hands while falling through the sky, and instead of performing this scene with actors in front of a green screen, the film had actual skydivers leap out of a plane at 12,000 feet and perform the entire scene while they were falling through the air. Inception's spinning hallway. Christopher Nolan's Inception is one of the most mind-bending movies of the past decade, but the director's passion for doing as many live effects instead of computer-generated ones created some understandable difficulties during the production of the film. One of the most memorable scenes in the movie, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt fights in a spinning hallway, was surprisingly filmed on a real-life set, which gave an incredible visual effect but was also insanely difficult to do. The production had to build an entire hallway set that spun, and then Joseph had to learn how to navigate the spinning set to make it look easy and believable. Kubrick's attention to detail in Eyes Wide Shut. Legendary director Stanley Kubrick will always be remembered for his intense attention to detail and his perfectionism when it comes to his movies, but occasionally his need to get things exactly the way that he wanted them seemed a bit over the top, even for a perfectionist. When shooting his film Eyes Wide Shut, Kubrick reportedly had Tom Cruise do nearly 100 takes of one scene before he was satisfied. And while 100 takes is quite a lot even for a hard-to-shoot scene, this particular scene was simply Tom walking into a room, but apparently not in a way that Kubrick liked. D-Day and Saving Private Ryan. When Saving Private Ryan was first released, it was reported that their D-Day scenes were so realistic that veterans of World War II had a difficult time watching them. And unsurprisingly, when you're committed to filming a scene that is one of the most famous events in history that involves thousands of people, it's actually a pretty difficult task to pull off. But in addition to recreating a believable version of a massive battle, the film has to actually tell a story during that battle, and the actors have to actually perform in all of that chaos, so Saving Private Ryan's success is pretty impressive. Spider-Man catching Mary Jane's lunch. There is a pretty memorable scene in the first Spider-Man film where Peter Parker catches Mary Jane Watson when she slips and falls, and Spidey manages to catch every item that falls right back on her lunch tray as well. It's clearly meant to show off Peter's newfound agility skills, but surprisingly the scene itself wasn't CGI. Actor Tobey Maguire actually caught all of those objects while the tray was glued to his hand. An impressive feat to be sure, but it actually took 16 hours of shooting and a whopping 156 takes to actually get the stunt effect right. RoboCop catching some car keys. RoboCop is meant to be a super cop who can do the job of 20 regular police officers at the same time, but in reality RoboCop was just actor Peter Weller in a massive costume that was absurdly difficult to move, see, and hear in. So clearly, it was an easy recipe for some serious trouble. One memorable scene in the film was of RoboCop snatching a set of keys out of the air, but because Peter Weller could barely see in his costume, it took the production nearly a full day to get a good take of RoboCop catching the keys looking cool instead of clunky.